I've always thought the open world dungeon concept in Throne was super cool, and
I
the
love
three new ones are no
It's the best gameplay loop that they have in the game by far.
different. These dungeons are absolutely huge, with some of them going super deep underground. Visually, I think the Temple of the Truth was the most impressive, but
Visually, Temple of Truth is most impressive. I grind Burkamp Manor because that's the easiest to find a spot where no one's going to interrupt me. Crimson is the best, though. Should I watch the Lazy Peon video now?
what happens to Throne and
Should I watch this? This is 3 weeks ago. So this is when Talandre first came out. This was Lazy Peon's one of the biggest YouTube content creators in the MMO space. He mentioned the video, so I might as well pull it up.
Liberty? This was the biggest
This is his thoughts on Talandre.
MMO release of 2024, and back during the launch, I was enjoying it quite a lot, sinking in over 200 hours during the first month alone, and even continued to play it for a few months after I stopped making content about it.
Yeah, that means that you really enjoyed the game, and the game at its core is really solid. I know that, like, Asmongold played the game. He was sponsored to play the game for like 2 hours on stream, and he constantly dogs on it from time to time. Like, the dude doesn't even understand what the hell is going on. But in fairness, we're talking about somebody that compared like classic WoW's PvP to Black Desert Online, and they said that classic WoW's PvP was better. That's where we're at. He's not a PvP person, and that's why he thinks Throne of Liberty is shit. At its core, Asmon does not like PvP in MMOs. He's not a PvP person. He's just not. Okay? And so he's not going to like Throne. That's just the way it is. BDOS PvP? No, I said combat. Combat. He's saying that the combat of pressing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 in PvE or PvP is better in WoW than it is in Black Desert Online, which is like Delulu, right? And I love Asmon, but that's Delulu. Asmon has 1.5 brain cells, so we can't learn new stuff. No, I love Asmon. At a decent amount of his takes, I like his gaming content. And a decent amount of his takes on gaming, I enjoy, to be honest with you. But that one was crazy, right? And you can't expect a PvE Andy, who only really likes PvEing in games nowadays, to really enjoy a large-scale PvP MMO. Of course he's not going to. This guy, though, used to main BDO in its heyday with Siege and Node Wars. He was in hardcore Siege guilds. He played in the PvP scene. He loves large-scale PvP. That's why he plays Throne of Liberty. That's why he played Throne. That's why I'm curious what his take is on Talandre. I actually think that Talandre is a phenomenal expansion in terms of how it looks, the aesthetics. The dungeons were super fun. And then the new Rift and Boonstones are really cool as well. But overall, I mean, obviously, it's still got the same core issues that the game had previously. But again, I think Talandre was actually better than the original game release as far as like content that I was enjoying in the game, in my opinion.
So why did I stop playing? Well, I always thought Throne had quite clunky
except for conflict bosses. Conflict bosses, I think they completely destroyed conflict bosses. I think conflict bosses were integrally super fun and a really, really fun reason why a lot of people played the game. And now they've completely destroyed that for every guild in the game. And it's not anywhere near it. They were super fun, but look at this, bro. This shit's crazy. This shit was fun as yeah, now nobody does conflict bosses. And I want to say, look. Okay, look. All right, I'm just gonna, you know, I'm the most modest streamer about this kind of stuff. But everybody said when the conflict boss shit came out, everybody was like, oh no, it's going to be super good. I personally think it's going to be a good idea. Now, would please, everybody in the room, raise your hand who said that this was going to be a terrible idea. You know, guys, don't be shy now. My God, it was me. I said that. Oh my God. Out of here. I said that shit was gonna be ass. Okay, I was like, dude, you can't pit guilds into 1v1s with each other. You're gonna destroy the PvP and the game mode at large. Okay, obviously I said this, and then they did it anyway. It completely obliterated conflict bosses. I guarantee you they're looking at the analytics right now and they're like, shit, Blue was right. Yes, I was, because I know how to make PvP systems, and I'm like a large-scale PvP guru, okay? I've been doing this longer than most developers have been developing games now, Okay, like at the end of the day, I understand what PvP guilds like. I've built these communities, whether they're like the new player communities in there. I've been in the mid tier, I've been at the highest possible tier, and everything in between. And in Throne of Liberty, I've now also experienced the high, the mid, and the low tier guilds experience in Throne of Liberty as well. I know I've been in these PvP communities my whole career in MMOs. I know what makes good systems. The conflict boss thing, it's terrible. This was a phenomenal system made poor by alliances zerging everyone. If alliances were removed, or correction, if alliances cap was moved down to 70 instead of 280, and max guild size was also kept at 70, four small guilds that only wanted to bring together a few people, like bang it out, could ally together and have 70 people. Or you could have one organization of 70 people, and regardless, one group of 70 people is not going to be able to keep the boss completely locked down against the rest of the server. So it's going to make it really competitive. It encourages the smaller guilds to show up and play and fight and try to find alliances that make them competitive. It doesn't make like the gap between small guilds and large guilds is not 280 players, it's 70. Okay, that's a much more stomachable gap. And to be clear, a 70-man guild can be beaten by two 35-man or three 35-man guilds. Like, again, smaller guilds with smaller alliances, maybe less active alliances, but they're all fighting. And if one 70-man guild, they can't necessarily control the boss. That being said, if you're a small alliance, you only have like 30, 40 people online, 50, 60 people online, you're never beating the 260-man Zerg that's on the conflict boss. That's what ultimately ended up killing conflict bosses. But then again, instead of fixing the issue, they made it a 1v1 against every guild every time. And let's be honest, if you're paired against Sin Nova every day, you're just going to get obliterated every day. It's like fighting supple or tier every day, and you're not supple or tier. You're just going to get obliterated. Eventually, you're just going to say, this, we're just not going to do this anymore. And it cannibalizes itself immediately. Everyone stops doing it, and then no one has any fun. It's obvious how this plays out. You just have to think about it for like 2 seconds. Okay, I'm done. That's my TED talk.
And I never really enjoyed the core gameplay that much. I also disliked that most of my time spent playing consisted of daily chores that I only put up with to keep up with the progression grind so I could do the guild vs guild content.
There it is. Exactly what I said in the previous video. Gameplay loop is butt. PvP systems are awesome. Gameplay loop is butt. PvP loop is awesome, right? Like, it is what it is.
Basically, as soon as PoE 2 came out and I started playing something with actual fun core gameplay, I couldn't bring myself to log back into Throne. On top of that, after I stopped playing, it felt like a weight off my shoulders with an extra hour of free time per day that I wasn't doing the daily content.
Man, it's almost, dude, I love being right. Being right feels so good.
Chore list that Throne's endgame progression consists of. Around the same time, Ashes of Creation also dropped its Alpha 2 Phase 1.
Okay, this is just fun. What? Get the f out. You telling me that this is not better than Throne? Stop. The Ashes of Creation cope, especially from people like bro, like what are we talking about? Ashes of never being created is the worst MMO to never come out in our lifetime. Okay. Look at this UI
which
and this combat, bro. It's the same shit.
Combat was infinitely better than the combat in Throne of Liberty.
Let me guess, it's better than BDO too?
So my motivation to return...
The only argument you can make that Ashes has stronger combat than Throne is to say that maybe the targeting is better in Ashes. But aside from that, the skill effects look way cooler. The movement is crisper. There's less lag when there's a bunch of people on the screen. There's way less bug. As many bugs as there are in Throne of Liberty, Ashes of Never Being Created has like 10 times the bugs. Okay, honestly, I'm just gonna 76 times the detailed bugs. Okay, like
turn to the game was quite...
Camelot Unchained is probably worse. True.
quite low. Recently, however, Throne of Liberty dropped a massive new expansion, and as of right now, the global version of the game appears to be pretty much caught up with the Korean version. I wasn't super interested in returning to the game because the main reasons I stopped playing wasn't due to content but the clunky combat and daily chores. However, someone tweeted me that along with the new expansion, the devs have indeed made some improvements to the feel of combat.
Yeah, so we were promised some crazy combat changes. I still think that the targeting is wonky. They still have not fixed the targeting completely. It is better than it was before. It's still not as good.
As well as address some of the critiques I had with the game in the past. In this video, I returned to Throne and Liberty to try out the new Talandre expansion to see if it's good enough to make me want to stick around. So, starting out with Talandre, I jumped on my SNS Greatsword and started killing mobs to see if I could feel a difference with the game's combat. Good news, I actually could. Here's what's changed for melee. Previously, when getting in range of a target, your character's move speed would slow down once you start auto-attack.
Okay, yeah, that is true. I never played the melee classes before, but yeah, that it's way better melee experience now.
This is no longer the case, which makes attacking whilst moving as both melee and range feel much better. Melee attack range was increased, character inertia was reduced, mobility skills such as the warrior's dash would less frequently get stuck on terrain, and
less frequently. Still happens, just not as much.
Reduced animation lock after mobility skills. For ranged casted skills, they added a buffer if a target moves out of range mid-cast. All of these are great changes and things I suggested they fixed in my previous Throne vid. Something else I instantly noticed were changes to how the damage numbers are displayed. They look a lot more stylish and well animated now compared to when I last played. Next, I started the MSQ, which would level me from 50 to 55 in the new Talandre area. I don't really care about linear theme park MMO storylines, so I can't comment on if it was good or not, but holy I was quickly reminded about what I love the most about Throne
the ASMR mommy narrator
and Liberty, the game's visuals.
Yeah, no, yeah, that too. Never mind.
Stylistically, I love how this game looks. The armor, the color palette, the lighting, and the sense of world scale compared to the size of your character. It's breathtaking in places.
Well, at least you know it's not
pre-watch. As soon as I entered Talandre, I was instantly disabling the UI to take screenshots. Welcome to Talandre. It's got like a realistic... Hell, that is gorgeous.
Talandre is gorgeous.
Oh my god.
So good.
Hang on. I need to take a screenshot. Absolutely stunning. For the next 3.5 hours, I played through the MSQ and got to level 55. Nothing particularly memorable happened during that time, other than a few cool boss fights, some puzzles and cutscenes. I was happy once it was over. Next, it was time to familiarize myself with the new endgame progression systems, of which there is quite a lot of changes since the last time I played. First, they changed the weapon mastery system to make it seemingly more grindy, have more levels, and be more of a talent tree.
My overall thoughts on the mastery is that it's a really good change, and I actually really like it. I think it's cool. It helps with your class customization, which is something that Throne does really well. I think the mastery has been a huge W. I also think the changes to runes to like, he's probably not going to mention it in this video because I don't think it was changed yet, but the changes to runes was a huge W, like the rune menu.
To be honest, I did like the simplicity of the previous weapon mastery tree, but I suppose the new system does give players more options.
Yeah, no, that's way better.
Next, the rune system.
Yeah, that's
basically
the old one.
When doing various types of content, you'll have runes drop. It seems to be a bit of a high watermark system with you initially dropping level 1 runes, but after you've grinded enough, you'll eventually drop higher level runes. When I first interacted with this system, I hated it because it was just clogging the out of my inventory.
That was one of my big gripes too.
But they recently changed it to have its own...
Oh, nice. So he did see it. Yeah, this is way better. This is so good.
...separate UI menu. Still, the rune system doesn't really add much to the game other than more stats for your character, another system and another menu for new players to wrap their heads around. Next...
I like it.
The artifact system. Once again, basically another RNG grinder that gives your character more stats and stuff. Does it make the game better? Not really. It's yet another menu to interact with to add to the system's bloat. Aside from that, Talandre also...
I think artifacts, I think that's a fair take on artifacts. They didn't even really feel all that grindy. They're just They just give them to you, basically.
Brings with it tier 2 gear, which can be enhanced all the way up to plus 12. Next, let's talk about content, and Talandre actually has some new interesting stuff. First, you've got solo dungeons. I've done a few of these at this point, and I like the idea of them, but in practice, I don't find them too enjoyable as
They're too grindy. They take so long to do.
Basically, you go through 4 stages of challenges with monster strength based on your selected difficulty level. Higher difficulty rewards more loot, and you can claim the loot from these solo dungeons 3 times per week. There's usually 1 mob killing stage, 1 puzzle stage, and 2 boss fights. As a tank, I found the bosses take too long to kill, and I didn't really like the non-boss stages or goofy mechanics. Perhaps these are more fun.
Welcome to healer life, bro. Healers, dude, it takes you an eternity to kill this shit.
As DPS. Thankfully, though, on my first clear, I did get my Bis Greatsword drop, which was pretty
crazy
cool. After maxing out my new tier 2 weapon, I ended the stream and continued to play Throne for about a week in my spare time. Lots of new dungeons have been added to the game since the last time
That's my favorite dungeon. I love that one.
I played. Most notably, the new 3-star co-op dungeons, which require 3.5k gear score minimum. I cleared all of these dungeons with the random group finder, and overall, I had a pretty good time. Something I noticed and specifically enjoyed about the new dungeons is that aside from the circular perfect blocks you do for boss attacks, now you have square-shaped perfect dodges, which keeps boss fights engaging. I've always enjoyed these boss mechanics in Throne, and I do find that perfect blocking and dodging is really satisfying in PvP.
Scripting? He's scripting? Arrest him? He perfect blocked? He admitted it himself. He's perfect blocked one time, he's clearly scripting. Scripting, exploiting, scripting, macro.
In
Christ.
between dungeon runs, I was also group grinding in the new Talandre open world dungeon.
Hey, that's where I did all my tokens too, is that exact hallway.
I've always thought the open world dungeon concept in Throne was super cool, and
I
the
love
3 new ones are
It's the best gameplay loop that they have in the game by far.
different. These dungeons are absolutely huge, with some of them going super deep underground. Visually, I think the Temple of the Truth was the most impressive, but
Visually, Temple of Truth is most impressive. I grind Burkamp Manor because that's the easiest to find a spot where no one's going to interrupt me. Crimson is the best, though.
most people seem to be group grinding either Birkin Estates or the Crimson Mansion. None of these new open world dungeons can really be solo grinded efficiently though, so you're always going to want to find a group for them. Next piece of new content I checked out was called Nebula Island. This is a 24/7 PvP island that you can access for a limited amount of
Well, that didn't end well, or that didn't age well.
per week, up to a maximum of 7 hours. Despite being a lawless zone, some of these areas are peacetime, so PvE players can just go there and group up to grind for rewards. I tried both the peace and PvP areas. The peacetime areas just feel like more open world dungeon grinding, but the PvP areas I found to be very fun even just going in solo. Aside from that, one very nice change I like with Talandre is the weapon and armor sync menu. Basically, this allows you to sync multiple weapons.
Homie. That's a BDO player, bro. That person plays BDO. Yeah, that makes sense.
This allows you to sync multiple weapons and armor pieces up to your highest level gear piece, so you can switch between multiple gear sets, builds, or weapon loadouts. Once you've got one full set of gear to plus 12, you don't have to level up another set if you want to try out another build. This is a very good change that gives players more flexibility.
Just a man of culture? No, he played BDO for like 3 years, 4 years.
After about a week of returning to Throne and Liberty and getting back into the daily endgame routine, I got to 4.8k gear score, which is enough to join a mid-tier guild, and I asked myself the question, do I want to continue playing this game for the foreseeable future? And the answer to that is no. After I stopped playing Throne the first time, I realized that I can't stand playing MMOs where daily chores are a large part of the endgame progression.
I think that's a fair complaint. I would be honest with you, compared to the last video we watched, I think that that is a fair complaint.
And as much as Talandre has brought some really nice changes to the game, it's also brought a lot more daily and weekly bullshit that will just feel like a weight off the shoulders as soon as it's no longer part of your routine. This is why I enjoy playing old school RuneScape. Yes, it's a grind.
God damn it. Please stop comparing everything to old school. RuneScape, please just use anything else.
Arse game, but there's no daily or weekly checklist.
God
I just
damn it.
progress whatever skill I feel like on any given day. There's no feeling of FOMO, obligation, or feeling behind. Additionally, I've already experienced the endgame Guild vs Guild PvP content in Throne already, and it's nowhere near as good as what Black Desert Online's Node Wars were back in 2017, or even Guild.
It's true though. I mean, he right. He right. I mean, true.
Wars 2's World vs World, which can be accessed without a daily chore checklist. So what would I
I don't know about Guild Wars 2 World vs World. I'll let you know when I get there.
even be grinding for? To experience pinnacle content that's less enjoyable than other MMOs? Overall, it's nice to see the developers make some improvements to the fundamental gameplay in Throne. For me, the combat does still feel quite clunky, but I absolutely love the visuals of this game, and I do think it has some super cool features. Ultimately, it didn't do enough to make me want to stick around, but maybe that's a me problem though, because recently I've started to enjoy more non-MMOs that don't burden you with dailies. But that's it for this video. As always, let me know your thoughts on Throne and Liberty in the comments below. Has the Talandre expansion done enough to bring you back to the game?
I think that he made some fair points. I think that what he doesn't, he's like, well, why would I play this when the end game systems are beaten out by other games in the genre? This is somebody who has no idea what Black Desert Online is currently like, and that PvP in that game is dead. And he also is someone that I think hasn't played Guild Wars 2 in a minute. To realize that game is quite a bit dated, right? Now, World versus World and Guild Wars 2 is incredibly good, is from what I hear. I've not gotten a chance to play it yet. With the graphics and everything, you know, a lot of people want to play an updated version with strong, large-scale PvP features, and my understanding is that doing politics and siege and stuff, and like Rift and Boonstones in Throne is much more dynamic than just doing World versus World in Guild Wars. Could be wrong about that, but who knows? I just think that he hasn't played a PvP MMO in a while, so he's like, just comparing it to shit that really is just not really comparable. This is the video here. Let me know what you guys think.